Hey, long time no see. Never thought I would do this again. Stuff I was wrong about 2023. Let's go. So I graduated college and got my first big boy job, and then I got laid off immediately. But it's fine. I did some job searching and I got my second big boy job, which was awesome. And then I got laid off immediately. Again, I literally got laid off twice within 3 months. I'm currently at my third big boy job. Not to be my grandma, but this was actually a blessing in disguise because it taught me a very important skill: job searching. The first round of job searching, I fully assumed it was just a numbers game and applied to absolutely everything I could with a resume so bad. One of the jobs emailed me back to know I wasn't going to get the job, but my resume was terrible and I needed to change it. Then I bombed 22 interviews in a row, and I finally got a job because somebody messed up somewhere and they both thought the other person was the one interviewing me, and therefore I got hired without ever actually interviewing for the job. This was especially annoying because I graduated with a degree in supply chain management. You know, the type of engineering for business that's a buzzword right now. It seemed like a pretty good field to be in, which is why I got a degree in it, because I thoroughly assumed that just getting a qualifications means automatically get a job that makes me all the money. Needless to say, bombing 22 interviews in a row and then only getting hired because they forgot to interview me, yeah, I realized pretty quick that A, I was clearly wrong, and B, the universe was not going to magically grant me a job again without an interview. So it became pretty clear to me that I needed to get good at interviewing, and that was basically the first thing I started doing. I learned how to write a good resume, I wrote down all of my answers to basic interview questions, I obsessively watched every Madeline Mann video ever made because she does a really good job explaining what they're actually asking you when interviewers ask you a stupid question that doesn't make sense. And it was good that I started immediately because, again, I got laid off immediately, literally 6 weeks later. It doesn't matter how secure your job field is, layoffs happen all the time for the dumbest reasons and no one is safe. Security cannot be acquired through a job because it's based on the security of the company you work at, and companies are run by idiots. By doing all of this interviewing and job searching, I learned that interviewing and job searching is a skill you can learn, and I learned it. And I'm very autistic too, so if I can learn it, most people probably can. Once you get good enough at interviews where it only takes you a couple weeks to find a job, it's actually pretty fine to get laid off, assuming you have an emergency fund. It's basically just an inconvenience. So it's a lot more important to general security to just grab as much money as you can while you can, and then be able to hop onto the next sinking ship. Knowing how to interview lets you do that. Humans are dumb. Skills don't matter. They just hire people who they think have a good vibe. Work from home is amazing and awesome. I thought it would suck. I was wrong. Okay, so this is going to be poorly explained, and I accept that. Anyway, other people being upset is not inherently a moral failing. Just because you do a thing that causes other people to be upset doesn't mean it's a bad thing. And I don't mean sometimes you have to make other people upset and that's a con that has to be weighed against pros or whatever. I mean, it's not necessarily morally wrong to do something that makes people upset. I know there are some people who are directly unhappy that I am alive or that I exist as the person I am, but the fact me existing upsets them does not make me existing worse. The fact that bigoted people get upset at people being born does not mean that other people are worse less just by default. If other people are weakling little babies who get upset over things that don't affect them, then sometimes that's a them problem. It is not my job to justify my existence just because people are babies. So How to Win Friends and Influence People is a very specific book. It has been around forever, and basically anyone who has ever read a self-help book has read it, including me. And when I read it, I wrote it off immediately. It recommends a very specific set of behaviors: asking people questions, not talking about yourself at all, complimenting people a lot, being extremely proactive when admitting you make mistakes, never getting upset, smiling constantly, and calling people by their name a lot. And when people do one or two of these behaviors, it's fine. But to me, when people do a lot of these behaviors at once, I get intensely creeped out. It feels like I'm being manipulated, like they are hiding something, like there's some underlying motive to their conversation that I'm not yet aware of, and that motive is harmful to me. So I ignored the book because the book is basically a step-by-step guide of how to creep the absolute hell out of me as an individual. And then I met a CEO and some very high up government officials because reasons, and they straight up talk like this, all the time. It's weird. But what's weirder is that people loved it. They ate it up. It is more popular than cocaine. The more high ranking someone was, the more they acted like a mute puppy who only wants to love you. It's weird. So yeah, it turns out widely beloved popular book on peopling is better at peopling than me, and I will take its advice. I think putting leashes on children is fine, actually. Like, tethering a child is sometimes just like the best option available, and the reason that I thought it wasn't came directly because I did not have a lot of experience with children. The main problem with leashing a child is psychological. The idea that it's demeaning, that you're treating them like less of a person and humiliating them, like you're treating them like a dog. The problem with this is that kids don't see it that way. For one thing, kids think dogs are better than people, so being compared to a dog isn't really demeaning. And even if they did think being compared to a dog was rude, they don't quite possess the reasoning skills necessary to jump that many points. Remember, we're talking about toddlers here. They don't know how to sort stuff by color yet. They aren't going to be able to sort stuff by amount of personhood. It's very common for young children to have a phase of running or wandering away from their adult, which is fine. It gets them walking practice, it gets them to interact with the world, and it gets them the new level of independence that movement provides. The problem is, it's really hard to keep an eye on a moving target, and you do have to keep an eye on them. If only there was some mechanism that allowed your kid the freedom to wander around while also making sure that they stayed close enough that you could keep an eye on them and help them when they needed it. Oh, wait. The reason why this parenting tool exists isn't some ulterior motive. It's because toddlers are basically hairless dogs in terms of intelligence. And finally, the last thing I was wrong about is that I would never upload on this channel again. Whoops. I have a couple scripts on the editing stage, so keep an eye out for that, I guess. Bye.